I'll try to be as quick with this as possible because my phone's gonna die, but I've been playing Monster Hunter ever since Tri Ultimate, right? So I've seen the series evolve over time, and in some ways I would say it kind of degenerated. Monster Hunter to me currently is a pretty decent example of that thing where like a series you like becomes more popular, which you're happy about, but then it progressively loses a lot of the things that were fundamental to its identity, right? Like, I think Monster Hunter having generational gimmicks from game to game is fine. I'm not really bothered by that, but the integration of it matters. The balancing matters, right? So, I mean, even with that, like, the sound design is something that matters, and that's something people probably don't really think about too much. But when you look at Charge Blade, like, if you go on the Monster Hunter YouTube channel, there is a Charge Blade video for Generations Ultimate. I believe there's one for World, and there's also one for Wild. You don't have one for you, right? At least not on the English Monster Hunter channel. So you'd have to find a hunting video, and I'll link one, where somebody's like, the one I'm going to link is against the Tigrex. I want you to check those out and listen to the difference in sound design for each weapon. And something you'll find is that in Generations and for you, the Charge Blade has such good fucking sound design, and it's not at that level in World, Rise, or the previews we've seen so far for Wild. Wild could change because it's not out. They have the demo. There's stuff that's going to change between the demo and the live game, right? Like, there's stuff to be seen. But fundamentally, Monster Hunter has kind of been backsliding on things that gave it its identity. So, like, even with World, I know people are like, oh, they're making it very Western. Monster Hunter was always mixed. And I think, you know, it was a bit of a misnomer when when people were saying that it was getting Westernized, because, like, it kind of was, but it wasn't getting Westernized in terms of its thematics. It was getting Westernized more so in terms of its marketing, because the marketing also does extend to the way the game is adjusted and balanced, right? Like, I don't mind weapons like being made a little bit easier to play as long as they're like maintaining their fundamental identity. They have their little quirks, their little like dual blades with its dashes and its movement options was something that I really like to try Ultimate, that continued into 4 Ultimate and even into Generations. But the changes to Demon Mode in World were like, wait, what is this, right? Hunting Horn's been in a rough spot. Gunlance has always been in a kind of rough spot because Gunlance is almost purely a numbers issue. It's so fucking weird because Gunlance has actually had issues moving to some degree. You used to have to sheath and then like run up to a monster and unsheath, which was fine because you had this like dashing attack you could do, or running attack. But yeah, like Gunlance mostly historically has needed more damage because when you get to the G-rank games, its scaling is just not appropriate. Not only do you not get access to all the different shot types at max level, but yeah, there's just like not enough damage from the shots themselves. Like more recently, I think we've been able to go up to shot level 7 or 8. Did World go up to 11? Something like that. But yeah, it's just like Gunlance a lot of the time is a weapon that doesn't perform necessarily because it has a particularly useful gameplay loop. It performs because of glitches. Like in Portable Third, there was a guard point glitch where if you were using an auto guard charm, there was just a lot of instances where like while you're shelling and stuff, you could auto guard, which would allow you to full reload into a full burst, right, to do a bunch of damage. So Gunlance was really, really good because of something that was basically a glitch. And then you look at World. I have another video I'm going to link in the description. It's like a 62-second run or some shit like that. Or was it shorter than that? But they're doing ledge canceling stuff to keep doing Gunlance slams, right? And you might be like, okay, well, shouldn't you be happy that the weapon has access to something like this? It's not that I'm mad about it. It's just like, bro, the weapon is not performing because its kit is allowing it to, you know, engage with monsters in an interesting way, right? It's performing because of a bug it has access to. I say that and a bug flies on my arm. But yeah, so it's like the Gunlance overall experience, as an example, frustrates me because it doesn't get adjusted for in a way that coincides with how the game works, right? You have most of the other weapons have all these like really cool movement options, and even Hunting Horn, when it was a lower damage weapon, you could swing it around in all of these different ways and hit monsters even while they're trying to do an attack at you, which can make them, you know, stagger and flinch and stuff like that, right? Hunting horn consequently is like, oh, I have high risk, but if I know what I'm doing with this weapon, why the fuck did I say it like that? But if I know what I'm doing with this weapon, I can punish the monster for trying to be aggressive with me. I can use my game knowledge to my advantage. And that's just something you can do. You don't have to be a super good MLG player for those kinds of things, but it's something that the series consequently is just losing out on over time. And I wish this would stop being the case, but as we see every single game, it seems like they're making things more simplified in a way that is just genuinely not engaging. Like, I could talk about Longsword. Longsword is a weapon that I like, but I hate playing it in Rise and Sunbreak, more so Sunbreak really, because it feels absurdly safe. You have so many instances that you can do the counter. You can counter out of so many things. And it's like, okay, well, what am I doing now? What risk do I hold? Like, if you want to do, you know, no damage runs and stuff like that, you could take up the challenge, and there's like satisfaction to be had. Wow, sorry, my throat hurts. There's satisfaction to be had, but yeah, it's rough. If you really like learning and engaging with the world, you do that less. Like Sunbreak, all of the restocking and everything actually reduces the amount of downtime you have between hunts and reduces the amount that you're engaging with the different aspects of the world, and all of the things that were built up is like, oh, like immersion, basically. You don't do the egg quest. You don't necessarily, like in a hunt, because you have the restock, you don't necessarily have to gather items like blue mushrooms and whatnot and herbs to make potions. You don't have to gather life crystals and whatnot to make, you know, the life powders. You still kind of want to get those items so you can make those things, but I hope I'm making sense, right? Like, things being too convenient, I think, makes it less engaging. And then there's the hunt fatigue aspect. The hunt fatigue is like, in Sunbreak, you go from hunt to hunt to hunt to hunt to hunt to hunt to hunt because you don't really have those reprieves in between quests, which, like, I'll do some back-to-back hunting, but it's like I'll do like maybe 2-3 hunts and then I'll go do some farm stuff. Sometimes I'll check back between every hunt depending on what exactly I'm doing, right? But like overall, it just, it wears on you, right? And people have complained about this, and it's actually one of the things that, like, I try to talk about with Gunlance balance, because Gunlance is a weapon that ends up taking a really, really long time to do the hunts with. So you end up in this position where, like, let's say another weapon would take you 10 minutes to do a hunt, 10 to 12 minutes. Gunlance might be taking 1.5 times that. And, you know, while you're progressing through the game, it might not feel that bad, but then once you get to the end game and you feel like Gunlance's damage is really falling off, it's like, okay, this is not great. And people would argue that, oh, well, Gunlance is this, like, tank siege weapon, so it shouldn't be doing all that damage. Bro, Lance literally is, and continuously has been, one of the highest damage weapons in the series, right? And it is just as good of a defensive tool as Lance. They were, like, when you look at their description, they are designed to have shields of the same level of defense, but Lance is allowed to do much more damage. And it's partially because, again, Gunlance's damage scaling isn't the greatest. Gunlance's moveset may be cool, but it also doesn't allow it to necessarily make as good a use of monsters' openings as the Lance can, right? Wyvern Fire is super cool. I hope it stays as part of the kit, but historically, it's kind of taken a while for it to come out. They sped it up more recently, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, it's just like, I think there should be an amount of trade-off for doing various different actions, especially high damage actions. But Gunlance very frequently just comes out short. And it's not the only weapon that comes out short. It's just like the one that I think is the best example because it's the most fucked weapon overall. Like, it's fucking frustrating to me that I can't really talk about the game, and ways I genuinely think it's gotten worse without people going, like, assuming bad faith. And it doesn't even have really anything to do with the arguments that I'm making, I think. It's more because the experience that they're having is being challenged by what I or others say. And the sound design thing is kind of objective. It is something that's very clearly observable, and it's probably one of the main things I think I've had people arguing about and saying I'm wrong. Watch the fucking videos.